webinar titled Test Automation Newbie, Robot Framework Will Save the Day for free, featuring Brian Lamb. Brian of RobotFrameworkTutorial.com and brings 20 years of experience as a tech leader, entrepreneur, and trainer with companies like Apple, Adobe, Yahoo, and Experian. Brian hopes to enable organizations around the world to experience better, faster test automation success with smaller upfront investments and reduced barriers to entry. We'll also be joined by one of SASA's solution engineers, Chris Brosenley. Before I hand things off to the speakers, I want to cover a few items. If you experience any technical issues, please submit a question in the Q&A panel. This is also how you can submit questions, and we'll answer as many as possible in the Q&A at the end of the hour. And necessary applications you have running in the background, as this will help with any bandwidth issues that you may have. When is ready, you'll receive an email with the links to the recording and the slides. This should probably end of today or tomorrow morning. We're going to go ahead and get started and pass over to Brian. Thanks, Brian.
Hello, good evening, wherever you are. We'll get started here by just kind of reviewing my agenda. Thanks for the intro, by the way, Christina. So, pretty demo-packed, as you can see. I enjoy doing demos during presentations. I think it's more engaging. I'll start out me, then we'll do a demo to kind of get you engaged so you can see what Robot Framework does. Then we'll talk about what a test automation framework is. And we'll go through origin and history. We'll talk about features and capabilities, answer the question, robot versus Selenium. Talk about how we would simple web script, and then I'll show you a more realistic layered script with page objects. And then to the nitty-gritty of how to integrate robot.com, which is really powerful. Then I'll do of using Jenkins and parallel execution at saucelabs.com, and then we'll talk about one more and some Q&A and all that good stuff. So dive right in. 20 years in tech, Apple, Yahoo, and Experian, and I'm the founder of RobotFrameworkTutorial.com. All the we won't have deeply, can't really show you how to install it, for instance, but if you jump over to RobotFrameworkTutorial.com, there's a course right here that's currently available, and when you can see that there's how to install, create instructions, lots of good stuff. It's about a 4 or 5 hour course, so that's available for you right after this webinar if you want to jump in on that. So I'm excited about what this thing can do. We're going to run the tests, which includes a very simple API test, a file test, website, data, including both SQL Server and MySQL, and then an ML test, and then examine the amazing results of the file. Let's take a peek at that. IDE open, that's what I prefer to use, but you can use Eclipse or brackets, or even if you want to, which has these test files in here, and these are really just text files. And these tests depend. So the API test depends on these resources, the files test depends on those resources, actually those resources, and so on. I'm just to check my GitHub username. We're going to directory. Notice there's no output directory up here. You'll see an output directory when I'm done. I'm going to create a base directory. We'll come to inside there. We'll create a file. Actually, we'll create files. Then we're going to move a file from directory 2 to directory 1. Just some typical basic file stuff like that. The insert. Actually, set up and tear down. I want to draw your attention to that because respectively, we're going to do a MyConnect and a MySQL disconnect. So I'm going to insert a record, and then I'm going to read the last record that was inserted, and we'll be able to get the results file. Same MySQL. Sorry. We will connect and set up and tear down, and we'll insert a record and read the last record. I'm going to test cases. We'll go to Amazon and we'll search for products, and then we'll verify that a logged out user can add a product to the cart. And then for tests, I'm just going to got this input file up here, which is an XML file. It's like got several foods in it. So it will verify. There should be a menu file, one file. Then we type at the root, and then we'll first food name, price, and calories are correct. What I'm going to do. So I'm going to run it by grabbing this command up here and PyCharm terminal window down here. So I'm just going to paste that command into the terminal window, and I'm run. You first several files. The only thing you're going to see really is this web tests pop up. It'll pop up a browser window. I'm going to read Internet Explorer here, so it pops to the side. Good. Okay. See through pretty quickly, and now we're at the web tests already. It's doing close the browser. And the user can add a product to their cart. So it clicks. So then all of my tests are complete. And as I can drill into my this outputs directory there, and you can see we've created the first directory and second directory, and there are there. All of those things were done by these file tests. So this file, actually, I'm going to open it here, and you can see the green, which indicates that everything passed. We've got these aggregated statistics up here that show you statistics by tag, statistics by suite, and then you can search for results. I want to see all of my files test cases, for instance, or all of my XML test cases. You can see results and parse through those. You can search show server tests for that suite. You can jump over here and do a search and have a tag that says web, for instance, and you do a search, you'll find test cases. So it's a very powerful, attractive results file. And then it gets better when you click on this log button over here, or you can just and at the top. But what's better is that you got all of your suites down here. There's my API tests, my file, SQL, all that good stuff. So as I drill into any of these things, you see that I've got my keywords here that were files tests. If I drill into there, and if I drill even further down, eventually to the robot framework keywords, and you can see what data was supplied for those. So this result file is, if the tests had failed, it would actually put a shot into the results file automatically. So this results file is really powerful, really effective. Framework is, because we hear about these people, hey, you know, I'm building a new test automation framework for my company because we've got to do these tests. So framework includes things like, you know, choose language and then scripts based on that language, creating page and entity objects, supporting libraries to allow you to test web or API or DB or mobile functionality, abstraction layer that your business people understand what your test cases are doing. They probably won't know how to read your C# code, so layer is sometimes useful. Or selecting a test runner that has selective run capabilities. So like I said, you can specify which tag you want to run, and you can run only the web tests, or only the functional tests, or only the regression tests. We've got set down, which gives you reusable methods setting things up and tearing things down, and specifically for recovery. And then reports, results summary, aggregation, time drill down so you can see what's going on inside the test case. You search through your test results to effectively find what failed quickly, and then screenshots in case anything does fail. You can really see what was going on in the system under test. Then we've got scheduler, so you could schedule it for days or weeks or months, so it will run by itself. So you can have it run after a build of your product, and then conventions. So often people factor all this stuff in, and they say, okay, well, I'm going to fire Visual Studio, and I'm going to build my test automation framework, and again on different. But what we do is that Robot Framework does all of this stuff out of the box. You don't do anything. So the automation framework is ready to go. All you've got to do is so the order is simple. Back in 2005, this guy, Pekka Clark, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, he had the ideas for Robot Framework, and he basically wrote them in his master's thesis. So when he after college, I presume, at Nokia Siemens, he actually developed the version 1.0 based on those ideas. And then, fast years, version 2 came along, and it became open source. So I think Pekka and his team are doing an excellent job developing and maintaining this tool. The current version is 2.8.7. So it is a cross-platform, open source, free tool. You can install on Windows and Mac and Linux. In a natural language like your business domain, you could even have cases in German or Spanish or whatever language you want to, so it's most readable to your stakeholders. And I want it also has data-driven capabilities. So it's a keyword-driven framework, but a mechanism to allow you to do data-driven, based on the data set. So when it doesn't do much, what it depends on is all these libraries right here. So these built-in libraries that give you the ability to do the operating system test cases that I showed you, interact with processes, XML, really get down to business. You can install some of these X libraries by using pip install. So Selenium 2 for doing web testing, Appium, Swing stuff, FTP, and the Robot. Robot is where they have itself. They have examples, and all these libraries that I'm pointing at right here can be found under the test libraries link. So when you click on this, you can see standard libraries, which is what I'm calling built-in, and external libraries. They all have common documentation. So library, actually one, we see introductory information, and then we click on this keyword documentation. This is what I'm saying. All of the libraries will all have some kind of keyword documentation link. And you to be able to create documentation like this for your own libraries. The best part about it is it gives you this right here, and it shows you all the various keywords this particular library can do. For instance, I can open using that keyword right there. I can browser or close all browsers. I can click a button or image or click a link, so you get the idea. And as you click one of these keywords, it's what the keyword does, what inputs it needs, and then more details over here. So versus Selenium, why should I use the Robot Framework instead of Selenium? It's actually a generic framework that's capable of interacting with a wide variety of libraries. And one of them we can deal with is this Selenium 2 library, which on top of. So it's, or when you choose robot framework, you can do Selenium automation. You can do it more easily. You don't have to go off and learn a programming language to do it, because you can use natural language English keywords. Raw Selenium would fire up your IDE, maybe Visual Studio. You'd create namespace, you'd create a class, your main method here. You would write some C# code to instantiate a new web driver, and obviously you have to use a different line to instantiate the Firefox driver versus the IE driver. And here for Firefox versus IE, and then using semicolons and all this program stuff, just be able to optimize the window element, you send some keys into it, and then you click on this enter button, and then you close the window. So it can be a fairly steep learning curve for QA people who don't have any programming experience. This is like for robot framework. You just pull the library, the library, then with a library keyword. Open, and then I'm to that the browser I want to, and I can switch this out to IE or Firefox, whatever I want to do. And input, there's my here and the text I want to input. There's here. But I just did that for a demo, and then close the browser. See, it's pretty simple to give robot framework Selenium 2 words to script. This framework versus something like Cucumber, which uses Gherkin syntax, the given, when, then syntax. You can because I've added a couple of resources and I lower level keywords into these resource files. Now I have higher level keywords that are much easier to read. So see, I'm using given, when, then. So I've got given, user is not logged in, for products, then contains relevant products. Each are user-defined keywords that I've created, which map into those are the files that are going to have the distance of steps. Pleasant. It's a learning curve, I think, for QA people, and it's more readable for business analysts and things like that. Like I mentioned before, it is cross-platform. Windows, despite the installation actually is pretty small, light, and fast. I can do about 15 minutes. But like I mentioned, the details at robotframeworktutorial.com, I walk through all that stuff. So if you're totally new to automation, which is kind of what my course is designed for, I basics that help you understand how to do all these steps. So these are going to install Python pip, then package manager to install framework, Selenium 2 library, and you also install the database and API libraries if you want to, and install your desired browser versions, which may already be there on your computer. Then you have drivers for each browser, and then you have IDE and the IntelliBot plugin, which just gives you your syntax highlighting and all that good stuff. So like I said, I don't have to demo all this today, but if you go to robotframeworktutorial.com, there's a level 1 course that shows you how to do that. So how easy it is to create a robot framework script. So you can see what I'm going to look like. I'm going to have, this is my robot framework context here. I'm going to create one file called demo.robot, and I'm going to library to it, and then I'm going to write that are to the Selenium, open these 3 browsers to actually just try a simple test. Over here into my PyCharm IDE, And I'm so you can see all, by the way, are inside this external libraries directory. If you twist this thing open and you go down into site packages, you see some that I have, and libraries in here somewhere. Looks like it's right. Are tucked away in this external library. So what I'm going to do, directory called, this is just my convention. And I'll store my here. And I'll have more directory, even though I'm not going to use it today. Sources. Keywords and page object files that my test will depend on. I'm not going to do that right now, but I just wanted to show you my convention. So in this, I will say new dot script. The first one is always called. I'll begin and end with these three asterisks like this. Then the next is very. Additionally, you can use break your test cases up into. So I usually do, instead of putting keywords down here, is I'll put my keywords over here in my resource files instead of in my actual script file itself. So I use this, but I'm just putting it there so you can see that you can use it there. So this is where all your libraries and resources are declared. So I'll in library and I'll spaces there because you always need two spaces or more, like a tab. And two, because that's the library I'm going to use for these test cases. We'll on Amazon. And now here, because I want to have my test steps indented, I'm going to say browse, and I'll do spaces, and I'll type the open, and arguments by two spaces, and I'll say IE. Page to contain two dates. So that text is going to be on the page. It's just a verification that it loaded. Here. Type some text into this field. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to copy the CSS path. This is how to do things. There's a bit to figure out your. For now, I'm going to do it quick like that. I'm going to, for some. Okay, so I need to make sure that I preface that with CSS equals. There's needs to have that ID there though. So I'm going to selector and I'm going to put in that keyword. Then click on this guy. So I'll select the element. Path. CSS equals, and then paste in, and then wait for page to contain 4, because when I do select something, we'll just say 4, 5, 8. That's what I'm looking for right there. Sleep 3, just so, and then I'll go close browser. So that can actually write a test case. So Amazon here real quick, and you write a test case with IE to start with. So terminal. And the way that test cases is we say pybot, that command you use. And I'm going to use D option to specify that results directory there. So I'll type in results, and then one more case, and I'll say that my tests are in tests/demo.robot. So I'll type tests/demo.robot. Wait, which keyword am I looking for? Wait until page contains. So I mistyped the keyword there. So we'll grab that keyword. So this, wait until. So I'll use arrow and rerun this, and now it'll work. Case passed. Results, and right click on log and open. All these steps that I wrote out here in these primitive robot framework Selenium 2 keywords, you can see are, and if one of these things, 458 into text field, and it shows you which selector you used and all that. This results file too much because I already kind of covered that. Simple demo about works. Now, to follow up, you never use something like this unless you're doing something just really nitty-gritty. What you're typically going to do is page kind of example here, where we have cases on our robot file. Then we would use keywords, which basically pieces of those test cases in separate resource files. And the keywords themselves are going to talk to these page objects, which still do robot framework keyword files, but they represent an encapsulation of a website or maybe a form on your application or whatever it is. So you can put all the locators and methods accomplished inside these page objects. So things are just robot framework keyword files, but you can structure them in such a way that logical separation between all things, and you can have all your locators in this page objects. If it changes, and all of your keywords and all of your test cases will take advantage of that one locator change. And then these various page objects will talk to whatever libraries in scope, whether it's Selenium or files or XML or database. And then, of course, it'll talk to your system under test. So you can see what that would look like. Open up a project here. While I add.
Great so far. We're getting some good questions that we'll start fielding your way soon.
Awesome. Okay.
We did get one question. Are there that I'd like to ask you? Are there other ways that you can other locator strategies that you can use apart from CSS and XPath?
Yeah, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that right now. Here's the Robot Framework website. has the Selenium 2 library keyword documentation, it's specifying elements. And you see that you can use things like name, XPath, DOM, link, CSS, jQuery, Sizzle, tag. All these things are in this keyword for the Selenium library. So I really recommend you go check that out. That's where all the good stuff is. And they have some pretty examples here that kind of show you sort of how to do it. And then click a link, for instance. Please click link. It says here you need a locator, and then it says see introduction for details about locating elements. So for all these things here that use locators, it points you back to the top of the file to say your locators here. Question? Cool. Okay, take a look at like I said, a layered version of this thing here. So you buy called Amazon.robot. And here under settings, I'm not pulling in any libraries at all because I'm doing heavy lifting. My tests are simply passing off the work to the resources. So you can see this first resource is common.robot, and I've got a comment here that says this is necessary for setup and teardown. So if we robot, we see web test and my end web test. And all that really does is open a browser, but under settings, you can see that I'm using the library in that keyword file to accomplish this. I've got my test cases here, and each one of them begins with the search products keyword. So you can see it's been reused in every test case. So that's the strategy of creating user-defined keywords. Gives you the possibility to go here, and if I hit Control B on this, it'll take me to the definition of this, or the implementation, I should say. Now, read Amazon.robot file, and you can see this is right here. So I load, verify page loaded, top search for products. Your search completed. So you can see that each one of these things is a page object that does something. So again, I'm not Selenium 2 library because I'm not doing any Selenium 2 heavy lifting here. I've got to go into any one of these guys here by hitting Control B, for instance. And it's my page objects, top.robot. So search term, you can see now I'm using Selenium library up here. Primitive Selenium 2 library keywords to actually accomplish some work. So you call this, the user keyword calls these methods, these page objects. Page objects are doing Selenium work using the Selenium 2 library. This whole thing looks like right here. And what's neat, the results from that to read, because here's my test cases that executed. And if you click those things, you see what's going on. Okay, logged out user must sign in to check out. I'm going to begin end a web test. That's my run before and after every test case. Then search results, add product to cart, begin out. So read. And when you see page objects that are doing their job, you drill into there, you can see now and finally see those Selenium 2 keywords. So understand what's going on. And if something does fail, exactly to the spot that it failed, and it'll put a screenshot in here so you can click on that screenshot and see what went wrong. Pretty powerful. See how this thing works with Sauce Labs. And this is my work computer, which is what I'm at right now, and you can see that it can still talk to the database or API, whatever it wants to in my local, environment. I want to do my web testing. I'm going to send those commands over to this SaaS cloud here. Platforms, different browsers, mobile emulators, and I think you even have a beta going for some real devices. And the stuff that I was previously doing here is going to SaaS for execution there. Was how easy it was for me, my demo, to just switch out browsers. I'll say that for now, but I just wanted to kind of let you know that locally I could just change which browser I want to use by changing that line, and a different browser would open. Robot framework with Sauce Labs. There's a course available for this at robotframeworktutorial.com. To show you all the nitty-gritty details about how to do this, but it really is fairly simple. We're going to add a remote URL and abilities to our open browser keyword. Open browser, I was passing in the URL and the browser. Well, now I'm going to pass in a remote URL to point at Sauce Labs that contains my login credentials and then also desired capabilities. And this is what's going to have my operating and all that. So this, you want a custom library, which you call to report your test results back to Sauce Labs, and see what that looks like in a minute here. And desired capabilities, variables from to platforms. Your test on command line, you can pass in whatever desired capabilities you want to, so you can reuse the same suite for operating systems and browsers, especially. So, any Chris, while I'm opening this up?
We're excited to see this run on Sauce.
Cool. Simple. This script file right here, that's all I've got. The test case is really very similar to what I did before. Really comment out that line and open this line back up. Browser. Now this browser variable coming from here. If I want to change which browser, I can just switch this to Chrome or Firefox or whatever. And actually, just notice an optimization here I can make. I can pop that start URL in right here, so now I've got variable spots. Then we're going to put that same text, we're going to click search button, and we're going to verify this. So it's the same example I did before. And tool Windows terminal to run. So I'll pick in that spot right there. And now to run the test. Hopefully it works and it runs locally. Test case I did in the past. And now I can take advantage of this and I can say, let's see what this looks like to run it on Chrome, right? So I can use variable, run Chrome locally, because using this open browser keyword right here, and that's specifying the browser. So if I use the up arrow and run, now is open Chrome browser. And you can do it. And if I but I think you get the idea. So Sauce, we've got to add remote URL and desired capabilities to our open browser. So here's our, instead of go ahead and comment that out, and I'm going to uncomment this guy. So now open browser, because that's kind of bothering me. I'm at the URL, and now this remote URL, which is from this variable. And notice remote URL, this is something that Sauce Labs will provide to you when you create an account. Username is right there. The API key, or a key, say, right there. So it's got to be your username, :key at ondemandsaucelabs.com, blah, blah, blah. So I pass in remote URL, and then my desired capabilities looks like this. Go up in Sauce Labs UI, so I can name that whatever I want to. Which operating system do you want to be on? So Windows 7 or version. Okay, change this stuff. I'm going to take a peek and see how this works. So in order to do this, I got to crack open a saucelabs.com window here. And so you can see there's my username, and I'm going to click on this guy right here, which I think is really cool. And you can see it ran. It shows me how many hours I have remaining, how many concurrent VMs. If I want, I can click this tab right here and run some manual tests, so I can interact with VMs manually and play around. Automated tests tab right here. And now in theory, when I run this, instead of local desktop opening a browser here, it's going to open a browser over here on Sauce Labs. And it'll show up, it'll tell you that it's busy, and you can click on an icon to watch the test happen in real time. In the UI, Win7 plus IE11, it's going to spin up a VM with Windows 7 Internet Explorer version 11. So let's go for it. Pull this up, you should see something appear over here in this window. See that? Win7 is currently running. And if I click on this, I will be to watch it. Click on, and I can Sauce Labs in real time. And then, the fact, if my test fails, I can come back and I can watch the recording. And that's right here, because it doesn't know whether the test case passed or failed. We see locally that it passed, but Sauce Labs has no idea. I don't know, did it pass or fail? That's why we need to do a better solution where we have an API that sends the test case and the result back to Sauce Labs, and that's what I'm going to show next. But again, to our capability, so let me just jump out here and grab a alternate capability. So let's, with Safari, I will, and switch desired capabilities here. Actually, I'm just going to put another line in, and I'll just, this again. We're going to see in Safari running. So you can see how powerful this is. You don't have to have your own VMs and your own browsers, any of this stuff. Whatever your heart desires, you can throw it over to Sauce Labs, and the test will run over there. And the coolest part is it will be recorded video, so you can come back and rewatch it if something fails to figure out what happened. So you hook into your automation framework to record stuff. Sauce going on. The second step here, and override, create a custom library which uses an API call to report test results back to Sauce Labs. So that's a more complex thing, and I'm going to open up that project. Any comments, Chris?
That came in that said, can desired capabilities be configured to run on devices, iPhone, iPad, Samsung Galaxy, etc. from Sauce Labs? Yes, so yeah, and especially using Robot Framework, depending on which library you're using, if it's the Selenium 2 library or the Appium library, using the desired capabilities section that Brian just demonstrated there, you can point your test to run on whichever configuration you request from Sauce Labs. So platforms page on saucelabs.com platforms. You'll see a configurator where we'll provide you with the capabilities that you need.
And there's a question that popped in, is it just Python or can you do Java? That framework was originally built in Python, but it has the ability to allow you to create libraries using both Java and I think maybe even .NET using Iron Python. So all documentation on the website is very good about that stuff. I've primarily focused on Windows and Python for now, but again, future courses at robotframeworktutorial.com that talk maybe more about the Java and the .NET stuff. I just need the time to be able to about integrating with Hudson. Jenkins is what I prefer to call Hudson. I think they were the same thing. I'm going to go that next, so stay tuned. In this case right here, tests here, and these tests have resources. This is the full-blown deal. I've got my tests that have objects and all this kind of stuff. And library here, and bottom, this is where the good stuff happens. It's actually using library, which you can see imported up here at the top, to make an call to send back the results and the test case name. So here, and it's setting fail to Sauce Labs using this API. It also grabs the that Sauce Labs records, and it stuffs it into your results file. So if you want to come back and look at your local results file, you can have a video LV to click on, and you can actually play your video locally, which is kind of cool. So that's, and again, I don't have time to go into this, but I'll have a full course at robotframeworktutorial.com that shows you how to put all this stuff together. So if you're not, it's not done yet, but it's coming. Hopefully I'll have that ready. So this thing, I've grabbed a line right here. And sauce. And the passed in is still showing up here. Only test case is done. Is it going to update the test case name and result? So let's see that happen after the fact. The test case, and it changed to show the name of that test case and so mark the check for passed. If it had, it would be an exclamation point like that's a failed test case. And you and passing in the appropriate desired capabilities to Sauce. Taking it past, this should reflect now. There we go. So now I have two different test case titles. Both of them have passed. Jump ahead to the Jenkins stuff, which I think is next. Yeah, Jenkins is next. I want to show you if you're a QA person and you don't have the ability to do Jenkins and stuff yet, what you can do is you can set up a batch file on your local computer. Here to edit this, we can see what's up. So notice I'm CDing into a particular script that I want to run, and basically pumping out these commands, the same as I was just running, which have the remote URL. And notice on this one, I'm going to do Win7 Chrome 41, Win 11, macOS Safari 8, Linux, and Chrome 43. So you could have the same that you want to run on several different browsers, and you could set it up in a batch file like this. I double click this command Windows. Oh no, it's not working. Bad demo. Parsing does not exist. Okay, I must have renamed the file. Amazon.robot. What's done? It would have run all four of those things on Sauce Labs. I'm running out of time, so I don't have time to troubleshoot that. But it would have done 4 entries over here on Sauce with the click of a single button. So that's in fact work done without having to use Jenkins.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like just from a lot of these questions, there's a lot of interest in the ability to parallelize tests and to use this within a CI system or a CD process. So this is something that really, well, a number of things that I like about the robot framework is that it allows for a very robust test process. So you can use things like the page object model, so and plain English, so that your tests go stale as easily. They're useful to anyone picking up the test to read them. And then the page object model allows you to abstract away changing features in your website. Maybe the ID might change, or CSS tag might change, and you can use the page object model to abstract away some of those dynamic aspects within your website and locate them in one repository and just change that one file. So that's great for the robot framework. Additionally, that ability to host it in a script, you can from a CI process. So you can host these, put your scripts in a repository, such as GitHub, and your Jenkins CI server to any number of those tests to have them kicked off from the CI process. So something that's very, those are all very useful things as you scale your process with your QA. It has a lot of adoption at a less developer-specific type of workflow.
Awesome. And that leads me right into my final demo here. I know we're running real short on time. So I'll demo the fact that you can do parallel execution and, like you said, integration into a CI workflow. Jenkins GUI wrapper around these Windows command lines that I've been running. So you can script execution. You can also do scheduling from within Jenkins. And you mentioned a workflow. So it would be pulled down from source, it would be built, it would be pushed out to a server someplace, and then the next build step would be for your tests to run and validate that that thing is actually working. You can to enable parallel execution, and that would basically fire off your tests on multiple different VMs. The cool thing is that by using the Jenkins plus robot framework, it actually keep all of your results history and graphs and all this cool metric stuff. It gives you one single portal that allows you to go back and look at the results and stuff. So let's take a look at that. Like I said, a whole course on this as well at robotframeworktutorial.com. It's not done yet, but I'm hoping like maybe by next week that should be there. So if you want to learn how to do this, what I'm going to demo next, check out that site. We've got Jenkins, and I've got 4 different configurations. You can see it's the same script. I'm going to do Linux Chrome 41, Mac, Safari, Win 7 Chrome 41, Win 7 IE 11. And the way, if I go here and I click on Configure, doing in this build step is I'm firing off one of those commands. We've been seeing this all day long. I'm putting my desired capabilities and the test that I want to run. It's pretty much that simple. And here in my post-build actions, I'm using the robot framework to put those robot framework results that come from the execution of this up here into Jenkins, and that way we'll be able to see them when it's running. Just sitting here idle, let's go ahead and I can basically push this start button to run any one of these things. I could one master job up at the top and use that build flow plugin that I talked about so that I could click one button and start all 4 of these things at the same time. I only have 3 executors available, so I'm going to start all 4 of these. You'll see that 3 of them will start and the 4th one will wait until those 3 are done. So, and it says build scheduled. I build, click start, build, and then more. And notice it schedules the build, but it's not going to show up over here. So the first 3 are going to show up over here as actively running. And bam, see they're all running. All on different VMs, different platforms. these are go second test cases, and this guy's sitting here waiting. Case, that guy's going to kick in and do his 2 test cases. Now we're not blinking anymore, so they're done, and this guy started blinking, so he's running. So this, I can shows me the various results. Let me go and find one that I think was failing in the past year. Notice it'll keep track of these cool graphs. You click on the graph and you can see more information about your duration trend and all this neat stuff. And those I was showing you, I can open that log and I can actually see the result of this thing. And enough here. It even actually in common teardown, I think is where it is. Reporting the stats. Remember I told you it brings back a link to that video. If I click on this, it's going to download and open this video locally so I can watch it play back. So of the test case that ran on sauce. That answers some of the questions about the Jenkins integration. You can see it's absolutely doable. So I'm here, Chris, so I'm going to pass it back to you. Actually, I've got some for more information. Here's where you can find out more information. Robotframework.org. I already showed you that website. It has lots of docs and examples. I'm using robotframeworktutorial.com. I'm creating training videos that cover all of this stuff in very cool, bite-sized ways. There's forums on LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, Stack Overflow. So just go to those various things and look for Robot Framework. And I had, but I'll ask Chris whether he wants to. Oh, and one very important thing. This is an important question. Will it JS, because that's a very popular framework these days. To extend the Selenium 2 library, you've got to make some changes. And I do know of one guy here who has done that. There are several people. If you go to those groups, you'll find that you can question who's done it, and maybe they can share their library for you. But I know Richard Wong is a former coworker of mine. I'm going to have, because where he works. So LinkedIn has a library to work with AngularJS. So if you have an immediate need to do AngularJS, go ahead and Google Richard Wong Experian, and you'll come across his profile. Go ahead and send him a message, and he's also got a page generator that he's working on. It's going to be super cool that will create page objects really quickly using a browser plugin. So I just plug in for him because he's a really great resource for Robot Framework. How do you want to do the questions?
It seems like we've covered a number of these questions just as a point of discussion here. One thing I want to key in on here is just that Robot Framework, as you noted, is a wrapper on top of Selenium. So that Selenium can do are the things that Robot Framework can do. This is a way of making your QA script writing process a lot more simple and readable. And again, it follows some really good practices of the page object model, just in that sense. So really like it for that methodology. I think it might make sense for us to do a follow-up webinar in means of showing how to integrate this more thoroughly in a CI. We're definitely running up against time here, so it's definitely a key aspect that we'd like to hit upon in coming webinars. So that's something that we might chat about. Christina, I'm not sure if you noted any other questions that came up in the QA.
Yeah, we covered a good portion of them. Had a couple that you wanted to cover, you can do that as well. But if anybody has a really specific question For either Sauce Labs or for Brian, you can contact us at webinar@saucelabs.com, and I can put you in touch with the right people and get you some resources that you need as well.
Yeah, since you were talking about parallelization, I think we did a pretty good job of showing that you can essentially run in parallel on Sauce Labs by or whatever you want to do, because as many command lines as you can fire off at Sauce, as long as you have an account that can handle that many concurrent VMs, you've got covered. One of the things people ask about a lot is Robot, which is Robot Framework's ability to run things in parallel. The tricky part about that is that it tries to run things in parallel on one computer. So it'll run multiple instances of the same browser on one computer. That kind of breaks down a little bit over on Sauce Labs because Sauce is recording every test case. And if you've got 5 different browsers running the test cases, it kind of loses its context. You know what I mean? So recommend using multiple jobs to get parallelization working as opposed to all on one VM, because I think Sauce Lab supports that.
Yeah, well said. Just based on even a testing best practices, it makes sense to have one system running one test rather than a system running multiple tests. There's a number of different ways a browser might respond differently if it has focus on it or not. So our systems are configured to run one test case, one browser per test case. So something like Paybot won't work best with Sauce. There are other means to achieve parallelization, as Brian noted, such as using Jenkins.
Enjoyed it. Thanks for your attention.
Yeah, so much, Brian. This was really great. Thank you, Chris, as well. And just really quick, I've had a lot of questions asking if we are recording this session and sending that out. You can expect that by tomorrow, along with the slides. Again, contact us, webinar@saucelabs.com, if you need any further assistance, and we'll be sure to get you in touch with somebody. Thanks again.